3 up and 3 down. No runs, no hits, no errors, no one left on. And so at the end of 6 innings, the score is New York 5, Pittsburgh 4.
All right, so as the bottom of the 6th ends with the Yankees in front 5-4, Roberto Clemente was just retired. He had 9 hits, though, in the World Series for the Pirates. He had 314 during the regular season. As we mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast tonight, Vera Clemente, Roberto's widow, is in the audience. Every time he is seen on screen here, whether he's just warming up, whether he's stepping into the box, whether he's actually at the plate, catching a routine fly ball, every time there's a reaction in the audience here. Your husband... Throughout baseball, but especially here, your husband is not just respected or admired, he's revered. What does it mean to you to watch him play 50 years later?
It's like, I know for us, it's like always with us in spirit, you know. And I always remember, I want to tell the fans here, that he used to say he loved Pittsburgh and his fans so much. He said, if someday the Pirates decide to trade me, I will quit because I will not play with no other team or only with the Pirates. He loved the city so much and the fans. You know.
Of course, if the Pirates had ever been crazy enough to try and trade him, there would have been a complete mutiny aboard the pirate ship. All the fans. So, to this day, you say you feel his presence.
Mm-hmm. Yes. We every day, you know, I see people on the street that they talk about him. Persons that they were younger, you know, in those days, and they're still, you know, talk about him, and he's something very, very special.
We're glad you're here tonight.
Thank you.
Bobby, you started that Yankee rally capped by the VERA home run with a base hit. During the regular season in 1960, you had 1 homer and 26 RBIs. In the World Series, you had a homer, 2 doubles, 2 triples, 11 RBIs, no, 12 RBIs, the homer was a grand slam, and 11 base hits, and you hit 367. In 1964, you got 13 base hits against the Cardinals. October was good to you.
Well, the Yankees were in a lot of times. I got to play a lot of World Series games. I had 30 consecutive World Series games. So I was just thinking as we were watching, the Pirates had a great ball club, but if you look at our number 3, 4, and 5 hitters, Roger was MVP both in 60, 61, Mantle, 62, MVP. And if Kubek and I could get on base, we had a chance to score some runs, and that's what happened a couple innings ago.
When Mantle got the base hit up the middle, I heard you, Dick, murmur, I should have stopped that ball.
Believe it or not, 50 years later, I should have knocked the ball down and made a play. It's one of the plays that's haunted me for 50 years that I did not knock the ball down.
Sorry to bring it up again. Michael Keaton, as we mentioned, is out in the audience. How much of this kind of matches your memories of the Pirates of your boyhood?
Well, there are, boy, I don't know where to start. There are so many things I remember and observations that I'm making right now. First of all, one of the first observations I've made that I think should be pointed out is I look down at the Deacon Vernon Law and I think to myself, what an extraordinary head of hair this man had. That's my first. The first game I saw in Forbes Field was a night game. And I remember walking by, there was a place called, the drama of everything, the drive out, walking through all these guys in white short sleeve shirts and walking by the home plate cafe where you guys would be smoking cigars and you'd smell beer coming out. It was unbelievably dramatic and fantastic to me, you know. And so we walk into this stadium, and it was, I can smell it to this day. I can see it. I can remember how green the grass was. And you would, you know, very often have to sit behind a beam because we didn't have a lot of dough and we didn't have great seats. But I sat behind, and I can see that number on his back. We sat behind the great Roberto, number 21. Now think about that. In the late 50s, and in 1960, in 61, I think he batted .351, correct? He won the batting title, I think, in 61. And I often think now, not only is he, count the number of black players. There are not that many.
Only 3 or 4 on the team, on the Pirate team that year.
Now let's talk about the amount of black Latin players. Almost none. And I often think what it was like to live in a city like Pittsburgh or Cleveland or any city, New York maybe not so much, and be not only black, but Latin. The first thing I used to think about is, geez, where did the poor guy eat? You know, what was he going to have, pierogies? I'm sure the guy thought, get me some Caribbean food. For God's sake, get me some black beans and rice, someone, please.
Vera, where did you and Roberto find cuisine that reminded you of home in Pittsburgh?
I used to cook.
Yeah,
I remember every time we traveled from Puerto Rico for the season here, I used to bring products from Puerto Rico. Since we cannot buy here, sometime in Ohio, 2 hours away from here, we used to go and buy some products from Puerto Rico.
What you also forget about him, he was a complex dude too, you know, but what you forget about him is how unbelievably handsome he was. I mean, this is like, I was like movie star handsome.
There are baseball cards. When you guys walk through
I have that card.
In one of his early cards in the 50s said Bob Clemente,
Right.
because it was felt, and sometimes the announcers would refer to him as Bob Clemente, because Roberto sounded too Hispanic, and
Yeah.
they thought that it would make fans uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And what Roberto always insisted upon was that he be granted respect for that. And when he was interviewed after the World Series, he always spoke at least partly in Spanish.
In 1960, when most people would have cowered,
He would say to Bob Prince, "Excuse me, I want to say something to my parents in
Yeah,
Puerto Rico."
yeah.
And then he would speak in Spanish, and Hispanic fans have told me how much that meant to them at that time.
Well, these guys now, talk to those Latin players now, man. He's the guy.
Yep.
He's the god, you know. Sorry, I'll shut up.
Nope, it was all good. It was all good. And now, here's the deal. We go to the 7th inning. We're coming to the home stretch. The score is 5-4 Yankees, but it may not stay that way. Back to the game.
Score is New York 5, Pittsburgh 4. 7th inning, Clete Boyer takes a strike. Hal Smith, he started to swing and held off. 2-2. Dick Groat on third base. Bob Clemente on first base. 2 runs in. 7-6 New York. 2 balls, 2 strikes. And Hal Smith hits a drive to deep left field. That ball is way back out there, going. And pandemonium breaks loose at Forbes Field. The fans go wild in Pittsburgh as Hal Smith slams a long drive, 425 feet over the left field wall, scoring GROAT and Clemente ahead of him. 5 runs in, and it is 9-7 in favor of Pittsburgh. And Ralph Terry is coming in to replace Jim Coates. Coates pitched 2/3 of an inning, giving up 2 hits. A 3-run homer by Hal Smith, and they are going wild here at Forbes Field as the Pirates have come from behind. They led 4-0 at the end of 2. 4-1 end of 5, trailed 5-4 at the end of 6, and 7-4 at the end of 7.5. And Hal Smith comes through with a dramatic 2-out, 3-run homer off Jim Coates, and the Pirates are out in front, 9-7. And the side is retired. 5 runs in, and it is 9-7 in favor of Pittsburgh.
Okay. Hal Smith, you got to be thinking, that's your only at-bat of the game because you replaced Smokey Burgess. In about 3 more outs, I'm going to be a household name. My picture's going to be on the front page, forget about the Courier and the Post-Gazette, of every newspaper in America, right?
I guess. I really didn't think about it a lot. I did after. I really didn't know what happened until I round second base. When I went around second base and I looked up in the stands and people were on the dugouts and doing it, and I said, what the heck have I done? And I get home and Dick Groat and Clemente both lift me up in the air, and I was absolutely overwhelmed. And I thought, that no matter what happened, I had really helped in a World Series, and it had been my lifelong dream.
You know, it's not often that a note pays dividends half a century later, but they stood for you again 50 years later.
No, they're great. They're great people.
Dick, one of the things that I noticed in being around you guys last night at dinner, you guys stayed together for a long time as a team. Players didn't move around as much as they tend to today. Bonds were formed that still endure 50 years later.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. We've been together 3 or 4 times this summer, and it's like we've never been apart. The 50 years went by, having gone through the pennant race in 58 and then again in 60, you develop bonds and a closeness and a friendship that never goes away the rest of our lives. And thank God I played with all these guys. They were really special.
Bill, you were saying last night how often this Pirate team came from behind. So you'd led 4-0. Now you're down 7-4 going to the bottom of the 8th. But a couple dozen times during the course of a pennant-winning season, it seemed that you guys came back. There was a game against the Reds in April. You're down 5-0 in the bottom of the 9th and get 6 runs at Forbes Field to win the game 6-5. So you guys were used to getting up off the deck.
It wasn't just a couple dozen. It was about 30 to 35 times that we came from behind in the 8th and 9th inning. I mean, we never gave up. And after this happened several times, you just keep thinking it's going to happen. And it did.
Now, Bobby, a couple of things had to happen and go against the Yankees to set the stage for the Hal Smith home run. First of all, looked like an easy double play ball that Bill hit. It was a sharply hit ball, but it was right at Tony Kubek, and then it takes a wicked hop. We're going to take a look at it again. Tell me about the play, and then first you could see that you were very concerned. Tony was your roommate and your double play partner, and he seemed to be seriously hurt. Here it is.
Well, the ball really was hit hard, and that was why we had a chance for a double play, because